Hi friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and today I'm going to do a video that I have not seen yet on YouTube, and I don't know if I'm the first one, but I'm at least one of the first. I'm doing a side-by-side comparison between the Inversion Tarot, which recently came out from US Game Systems, Inc. It was just released this January. It comes in a tin. And it's only the second of two Tarot de Marseille style decks that come in a tin. And the second deck is the Rolla Nordic Tarot, which originally came out in 1960, and the copy I have here is from 1981. It was made in Switzerland and distributed exclusively for the U.S. by US Game Systems, Inc., 1981. So let's give a side-by-side comparison. Here are the backs. I rather like the back of the Inversion Tarot. I like the geometric nature. And the back of the Rolla Nordic deck says, "The tarot shows the path." Let's flip them over. And so we do see that the inversion owes a bit to the drawings of the Rolla Nordic deck. They are the inversion is black over white with black predominant, and the Rolla Nordic is the white on black with white dominant. And the line drawings are very similar. The differences here are that in the Fool of the Inversion deck, we have a sun, and it's also labeled as the Fool. In the Rolla Nordic deck, it's labeled as Magus, and there is no sun. In the Inversion deck, I notice we have the word Magician rather than Magus, and for the Rolla Nordic, we have the word Juggler, but they're very similar in design and style. The Rolla Nordic has the Priestess, Inversion High Priestess. Neither of them call it the Popess. And they both, although this is a TDM style deck, the Inversion, it's borrowing heavily from the Rolla Nordic deck, whereby neither of them are really true TDM style decks. They're crossovers. I guess they're hybrids. The Empress, called the Empress in both. Very similar in design. The Emperor. In both, they're named the Hierophant rather than the High Priest or Pope. You see the keys on the Inversion Tarot. I don't see where they occur in the Rolla Nordic. Oh, up here. The hint of keys. The Lover in the Lover's card in the decks. Again, very similar. As is the Chariot. This is a bone of contention with me for the Inversion because they have Strength as the 8th card. The Rolla Nordic has Justice as the 8th card, as it should be. Put those aside. The Hermit. On both, there's a star on the shoulder. the wheel. In the inversion, it's the Wheel of Fortune. In the Rolla Nordic, it's the Wheel of Life. Otherwise, very similar. Okay, so in the 11th card for the inversion, we have Justice, and for the Rolla Nordic, we have what would normally be called Fortitude or Strength, but here they have it named the Enchantress. So let's compare their Justice cards before we move on. Very similar, different ornament, different decorative motifs on the dresses, the shoulders. And let's compare their Fortitude cards, or their Strength cards. Very similar. Okie doke. Okay, we have the Hanged Man, called the Hanged Man in both. Death is death. Well, actually in the Rolla Nordic, it's properly unnamed. Just has the number. In the inversion deck, it labels it as death. And remember, the Fool is the card with no number, and death is the card with no name. Which, this is another little bone of contention with me, with the inversion, because it's not exactly a copy of the Rolla Nordic, so they didn't have to stick to that tradition. You know, they could have done it as a genuine TDM. Temperance. In the inversion, it's the Devil. In the Rolla Nordic, it's the Black Magician. I guess referring to black arts. The Tower. The Star. And as you see, the inversion really is heavily borrowing from the Rolla Nordic, which would explain why it's not a genuine TDM. But still, they could have gotten Fortitude and Justice right. The Sun. It's a bit different. Judgment. And the World. Okay, on to the suits. And there are differences between the two. Ace of Swords. Two of Swords. And I believe the Rolla Nordic deck was intended to be colored in. It was not intended to be left black and white. It was intended to be colored in by Miss Nordic's students. And I was just fortunate enough to have secured a deck that was not colored in as it appeared, you know. And there are differences the way they lay these four as opposed to the other way. So there are differences in the suits. One thing in both decks that US Game Systems Inc. can't resist is putting their names in the corners. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing where I am because I'm not, yeah, see, and here. Let me see. Oh, they just can't resist. Okay. They call the pages pages. Very similar. The knights are horsemen. Very similar. It really looks like a chess game, you know, like a real, you know, it reminds me of chess. Okay, those two particular knights. The Queen of Swords. Clouds, which we don't see here. Here we have a flame. For the Queen. King of Swords. Okay, on to the cups, which seem to be very similar to, the Ace of Cups seems to be very similar to an ace from a Piedmont deck. You know, the flowers coming from the vessel. The twos, again, the inversion doesn't do it exactly the same way as the Rolla Nordic. The threes, fours, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of cups. The pages, the horsemen, again very similar. They each have a heart on hiney. The Queen, quite different. A real reversal, looking in the opposite direction. And an actual cup here and more of a chalice here. And the King, again, appearing to sit and face the opposite direction. Interesting. Okay, batons. Here it's called wands in both decks. 2, 3, 'So they did rearrange things differently for some of the cards of the pips. Pages, the horsemen, again a bit different, the queens, and the kings, and now the suit of pentacles. I rather like the Ace of Pentacles of the Inversion deck. The Ace of Pentacles on the Rolla Nordic has some type of bunting above and a ship at the bottom. And the Inversion has, again, clouds, but with a house. And another bone of contention is that, you know, I prefer to see coins, but the original artist decided to do a hybrid, I guess, and the Inversion was kind of a copy of that. So that's why we see in the classic way Rolla Nordic has her name on the 2 of coin. 3. In the Rolla Nordic, all the pentacles are a little different, which is kind of, you know, interesting. More interesting than just straight up pentacles. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, the page, the horseman, the queen, and the king. So there you have it, a side-by-side comparison between the Inversion Tarot, January 2020, and the Rolla Nordic, and this copy, as I mentioned, is the 1981. It was first released in 1960, so my copy, although old and out of print, is still not the oldest. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Visit my website at www.tarotclarity.com. You can visit me on Instagram, where I'm known as the Tarot Reader. I have a second Instagram account where I'm known as Tarot Clarity. And you can find my private tarot Facebook page at Tarot Clarity LLC. I'm also on Twitter as Tarot Clarity. Peace, friends. Until next time.